In the US, there are internal differences. President Trump is going against the globalist agenda, which was pursued in the past 50 years. He was pretty much inward-looking. He wants the US to be doing well. He wants Midwest to be doing well. He wants Detroit to be doing well. He's moving away from international responsibilities like climate change. Okay, this is one side. The other side is traditional globalists, right? Mostly in the Democrats, who are saying that we should come out together and we should contend or have some policy dealing with China. This is the internal fight. So because of the internal fight, China as a country is now confused. Which side of the US should China deal with? What will happen to the Chinese-US policy? Today, President Trump says this. Tomorrow, somebody says other things. This is the fundamental source of problems. From the Chinese side, I often tell my Chinese friends, including Chinese leaders, that is the biggest worry for China is not a strong US, a confident US. To the contrary, the biggest source of problem is a confused US, a country feeling insecure. It's a country economically, maybe down the road in 1 or 2 years, not doing so well. From China's own interest, we wish the US is confident as before, as prosperous as before, as coherent as before. So that's the big picture. Now, here comes my predictions or my call, because we're all investors here. You want tangible things. You don't want just analysis. You want tangible things take home, right? So here are some of my take-home messages from this analysis. Number one, I don't think China will be the former Soviet Union starting a Cold War, a hot war with the US. I don't think the future is a Cold War. China is ready to deal with whatever US will become. China is cool. I met our leaders, a top leader, several times in the past 1 year. Overall, Chinese leaders are composed, are very cool, very confident, cool, saying that we understand the US reaction to Chinese relative emergence in international influence. This is universal. When Japan was important, is doing well economically, US was nervous. So don't be panic. Let's take it easy. Meanwhile, the Chinese leadership, as well as most intellectuals, believe that dealing with the US, we need patience. The US will give us trouble one way or the other. Today's trade problem, tomorrow perhaps would be problems in science technology, in AI, maybe in visa, maybe in university research or collaboration. So let's be patient. This is a long-term battle. Let's be cool. So from the Chinese side, there's no chance of trying to solve the problem by a battle, by a military war. Also, from the Chinese side, truly, the perspective is that the Chinese as a country, we're not asking the US to give up its influence in Europe, in the Middle East. All we are asking in China is to hopefully peacefully resolve Taiwan issue, is to try to resolve the South China Sea issue. These are traditional issues set by former leaders of China, like Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, or even earlier, or the nationalist government. So Chinese strategic objectives are much more modest in comparison with what the Americans have been enjoying, have been occupying. So the potential source of strategic conflict is rather limited. So this message has to be again conveyed to the US side. Of course, takes time. So the Chinese side is not interested in engaging any Cold War or hot war. That's my first call. My second call is that the trade war, as negotiations are going on right now, the trade war will not be resolved in the coming, how many days? 50 days left? How many? I don't know. I didn't count. Maybe 60 days. It was 90-day program, right? So maybe 30 days have already passed. Yeah, that's right. 35 days, 36 days by my count have passed. In the remaining 50 days, I don't think the two sides will resolve everything. I predict there will be a general framework of agreement between the two sides on trade. But there will be many, many remaining issues. Why? Very simple. Because the negotiators from the US side are people who dealt with Japan and who are very, very suspicious of China. No trust. No, they don't have trust of China. Even if China agrees upon everything they requested, they will come back to Washington and say, no, the Chinese would not be able to execute. They're not trustworthy. So my prediction is the two sides will sign some general agreement so that two presidents will be happy because two presidents do want to have some agreements. But the technical team will not be able to solve everything. Well, with major issues left for a continued process between the two countries to resolve. That's my prediction. So the trade war will drag on. But the impact of trade war is rather limited. Look, only 3.6% of Chinese GDP is going to the US as export. 3.6%, of which almost one half is value added from Japan, from Korea, from US. So I would say at most only 2% of Chinese GDP is affected by US-China trade dispute. Not a big deal, not a major deal. It's not the end of the world, right? My third prediction or call on the US-China trade war is that the whole world has begun to embrace a new pattern of trade. The US-China will not go back to the old days of free trade. There will be frictions. There will be sanctions. There will be issues like Huawei, like ZTE. Trust me. So let's be prepared. So all people, all investors have seen that. They are rational. They are cautious. The business people, they are forward-looking. So as we speak, the world trade system is emerging into clusters, three major clusters of trade, of value chain. One cluster being the North America, US, Canada, Mexico. They are working together. Car companies like BMW, like Benz are moving there. And some Chinese companies making auto parts like bumpers go with the BMW company. They provide parts. They invest there. That's one cluster. Second cluster being Europe, with Germany being the center. The German manufacturing sector is now integrating economies like Austria, Dutch, and Czech Republic, Slovak, you name it, Poland. That's the second cluster of free trade and value chain. More important than free trade is value chain. The third cluster of trade or value chain is this area. China, ASEAN countries, Korea, Japan. The Chinese economy in the long run, 20-year horizon, is fine for three simple reasons. Number one, very good innovation. Innovative power is in stage, is already scheduled, is already on track. Why? Young people. Out of 8 million college graduates, 3.6 million engineer graduates, and I can vouch for it. Chinese higher education system is not good training economists. I'm partly responsible for that. But we are very good in training engineers. No wonder Huawei hires over 100,000 young engineers at a relatively low salary, okay? That's why Huawei was able to innovate. ZTE and Sanyi, you heard of Sanyi construction equipment company. Companies after companies in China doing innovation using relatively well-trained and low and less and not so expensive engineers. US, 200,000 graduates in engineers. China, 3.6 million. Scientific publication, China is number one. Citation, number two. These things are changing. Second reason why in the long run China is fine, still has high savings. My calculation, 38% of GDP. The savings is a source of engine of growth. You need savings. You need investments. Singapore is evidence of this. The third thing is a large market. super large market combined with today's technology, AI, big data, internet, all these things love big markets. We have big markets, auto driving, so on and so forth. Your effort to have a large R&D, you can divert, you can spread out your R&D over large sales. So these three reasons are working for China. The Premier went to 3 commercial banks and made a speech saying that we will change our policy, we will provide more liquidity, we will encourage our commercial banks to lend to small enterprises. Also, Ministry of Finance has sped up in pre-proving local government's infrastructure investment. So all these are positive changes. But the main thing I want to call is the following. Again, you are investors. I would like to end with a few takeaway messages. Number one, I would argue that in the short run, 2019, the financial markets will have recovery in China. I'm running risk. This is a very dangerous to call the market, right? The market is full of uncertainties, but I would love to run the risk, of my credibility, okay? I would like to call it by the end of this year, the Chinese stock market most likely will recover, will have a good year, will have a positive year, rather than negative year like last year, because financial policies have been changed, have been reformed. And the US-China trade issue will mostly, at the end of this year, will have a kind of a stable resolution. Second call. In the coming 2 or 3 years, the real economy of China may slow down a little bit. From last year, 6.6%, which I predict, to something around 6.2, 6.1, low 6, which is below the natural rate of growth of China. Because why? Because why the economy slows down relative to natural rate of growth? Because, as I said, reforms are needed. China's financial system has to be reformed. The debt market has to be beefed up, in addition to the commercial banks, and local government's infrastructure investment should be refinanced, should be restructured. So coming 2 or 3 years, the economy will slow down. So overall, my message is the Chinese economy will have a big U-shaped path in the coming 5 to 10 years, with the coming 2 or 3 years being relatively slow, 6+%. Maybe you call it fast, okay? But we're not used to this relatively low speed, okay? 6%. And then it will go back to relatively faster growth in the coming 5, 6, or 10 years. Okay, so this is my call. Overall, let me end by a positive message. Yes, this world is full of uncertainties. Yes, this world is full of a lot of anxieties. No one knows what will happen. No one knows what will happen to the US politics and President Trump. What will he come up with new tricks with his Twitter? We have to watch every morning in our time. Still, let's be positive. After all, in this part of the world, Asia, we've got 1.3, 1.4 billion population in China still engaged in hard work, and the economy is still growing. Technology is working for us. And in India, another over 1 billion population still finally get good positive growth. And in ASEAN countries, as I already said, the market is already unified, and people are hardworking, and we are having socially stable institutions. So in this part of the world in Asia, we have no reason to be down. We have no reason to be pessimistic. Let's work hard. The future is with us. Thank you very much, and I'd love to answer your questions. Thank you.